Welcome back to a book brain video, and yes, I know I'm doing very well for actually making videos in the books I'm reading, but that's probably because I haven't made a video forever. So welcome back again. Also, yes, I am filming this one on the same day as the one like 2 weeks ago because I'm on a roll and I'm on a book talk roll. So that's why I'm here again in the same outfit. The next book I'm going to talk about, I don't actually have a copy of the book because I got it from the library. This one my sister recommended I read, and I read it in the span of 2 days, so about 8 hours total of reading, maybe 7, because it was just one of those ones that really just like sucks you in, because it's kind of a mystery book, and I haven't really read a lot of mystery books. Not really a mystery, but kind of a suspenseful book, I guess. But kind of a mystery. So yeah, one of those kind, and I don't really read a lot of books like that. So it was really actually nice to try something different, and I liked it a lot. And I think this one has been very popular maybe last year even, or the year before, this year or the year before. And yeah, I'll just tell you about it. I don't have the actual book with me, so I'm holding my cup of tea so that I don't know what else to do with my hands. Anyways, that book that I read was called Verity, and it's by Colleen Hoover. And I guess it's not really what her normal writing style is. That's the only book I've read by her so far, and I don't know if I'll read the other ones. I feel like they're kind of cringy, but I haven't read them. I don't know. But this one was very good. Minus, it did have some cringy moments. So I'll jump into it. I'll give a short little summary of what happens in it, and then I'll go into more detail. So if you don't want to have any spoilers, I'll give you a heads up. So in this book, this author, who's like a struggling author, she gets the opportunity to pick up writing for and finishing off a series for another writer who is struggling to or can't complete her own series. So she is very hesitant at the thought of doing that because it's such a huge undertaking. But again, she's very she's broke, and so she accepts the offer, moves into that lady's house, finds out that this author has had something happen to her where she can't finish writing her own book. And so anyways, she ends up living at that author's house so that she can have access to her office and go through her papers and figure out how to finish that series. And yeah, so once she lives there for a while, she is starting to get a little bit creeped out by some of the things that happened in the house. The author still lives there, her husband lives there, and their one child lives there. And just some things just aren't adding up, and she can't shake this feeling that something's not quite right in that house. So it just talks about figuring out why isn't this house quite right? There's something off in here. And so that's kind of the story, is her experience taking over this book series, but mostly that something isn't right with this family. And I'll leave it at that. If you're wondering, yes, I thought it was a very good book. It was a good ending because it was one of those books where it ends, but it leaves you two options of which thing to choose, which ending to believe almost. And yeah, I'd read it again for sure. I want to maybe even buy it because, well, it's almost tough though, because once you read it, once you know the whole suspenseful mystery part is kind of ruined. So then it's I don't know if I'd read it again. It'd have to be a while from now, but I almost buy it just because I liked it so much that I want to just, if I wanted to read it, I could just have it. I don't know. So that is your spoiler-free version. Now, come back after you've read it to have the non-censored, very spoiler filled version, or just watch anyways. So, oh gosh, how does it really start? So, yeah, the main girl. I don't really even remember what her name is. Oh, her name is Lowen. And Lowen is a struggling author in New York. She ends up getting this deal to take over this book series of another author that is a very famous author. She needs somebody to write the last 2 books for her. So Lowen meets up with the husband and the agents, and they have a meeting, and the husband kind of convinces Lowen to take over the series. And it's like, yeah, you can move into our house, and just that way you'll have access to Verity. Obviously, the name is named that. The name of the book is Verity, but Verity is the author who can no longer finish her own series. Lowen is the main character. So Lowen's like, oh, that's kind of weird to like live at your house, but maybe for 2 weeks or a couple days I'll do it. So once she gets there, she like ends up staying there for weeks and weeks, because she doesn't have her own apartment until she gets paid, and B needs access to the office that has all the planning for the next books. And what has happened to Verity, who's the author, is that she has gotten into a car accident and is like completely paralyzed and like no cognitive function left. And it's all like very sad for the husband, because they did have 2 daughters and a son. The one daughter, like a few months ago, died at a sleepover because she has a peanut allergy, and she died from having an allergic reaction. And then the second daughter died by drowning in the lake behind their house. And so it's just the son, the dad, and now his wife has been in a horrible car accident. So Lowen moves in, starts going through some of the office paperwork, and finds this manuscript, and it's written as if it's a biography of Verity's life, and it goes back all the way to right when she first met her husband. So it just kind of switches back and forth. So how it's written, the book is, it'll talk about Lowen for a little while, and then she's like, and then she opened the manuscript again, and then it'll jump into like reading through the manuscript as if you're reading the manuscript. So that part was good, but it was almost like, I just want to read the manuscript, like just I want to read it all at once. But of course, like that character like has to do other things besides just read a whole manuscript for a book. But yeah, that's how it kind of switches back and forth, the perspectives from like Verity to Lowen, but it's Verity in her biography form. And so that part was interesting. I liked that part of it, except for it makes you like wait for the next little bit of the biography. So Lowen starts reading this, and she realizes that Verity is like a psychopath, because, well, not at the start, I guess. At the start, it starts with the first night that Verity met her husband, and how he was so attractive, and blah blah blah, and then talks about like their love story. So Lowen's reading this about like the author she's taking over for, and her super hot husband that now she's living in his house, and he's like walking around, and she's like, oh my god, he's so hot. So it just starts out like, being like, oh my god, it's so scandalous to like read this private thing about this family that I live with, which quickly then turns into, oh my god, Verity is a psychopath, because in the biography she writes about how when she found out she was pregnant, she was like totally like disgusted and like super jealous that her husband was going to have like another baby, or was going to have a baby that he was going to love more than her, more than she loved him, and like just this baby's going to wreck her body, he's not going to find her attractive afterwards. Just like hated the idea of like being pregnant and being a mom, and was super jealous of this baby, which then it turns out they had twins, so it was like double as bad. And so it writes a lot about that in her autobiography that Lowen is reading, and she's like, oh my god, this mom like hated her kids. And then it's like, she starts thinking like, well, did she like kill her kids? Because it kind of has like one part of the autobiography is the mom like tries to kill one of the twins because she has a dream about the twins being older, and the one twin kills the other twin. So she wakes up, like Verity wakes up and is like, if I don't kill the twin that kills the other twin, that other twin's gonna get killed. And so she's kind of picked a favorite twin. So she goes and tries to kill the other twin while they're a baby. But then like the husband also wakes up and like, you know, she doesn't actually get to like follow through with murdering her child. So anyways, that, yeah, there's just like that kind of moment. And then just like in general, she talks about like hating the one twin compared to the other twin. And yeah, just kind of, that's mostly the only thing where it's like, oh my gosh, she's actually like wants to kill this kid. And then she, in the autobiography, Verity really starts to like the one, like twin A, we'll call her. She really likes twin A, and twin B she like hates and like wants her dead basically. And then their son is eventually born and he's like neutral ground, I guess. But yeah. And then as she like reads more through the manuscript, it then talks about how twin A is at the sleepover and they go look for snacks in the pantry and some of the peanuts, and then she dies from an allergy reaction. And the mom is like convinced that twin B went and like got her sister to eat something that had peanuts, or like knew there was peanuts in this thing and like on purpose made her sister eat peanuts and killed her on purpose. And so it like writes about that. And then at the end of the autobiography, she talks about how she like just like does, if she doesn't want that twin alive anymore basically, because she's like a danger to her other son and like she killed the first twin. So in order to get rid of twin B and just not have any girl twins, I guess, she is like thinking of like how she can like kill her twin daughter, I guess, her only daughter left now. And so she's like, okay, we're gonna go out onto the boat. So they have a lake behind their house. The dad goes out to get groceries. The mom takes the son, who she likes, I guess, or is neutral about, takes the son and then twin B out onto the lake and flips over the boat, saves the son, like on purpose she flips the boat, saves the son, and then like pretends, like lets the daughter drown because the daughter gets tangled up in like a fishing net underwater. And so she like lets her daughter drown because she like pretends to be really frantically searching for her so that her son, who is like 4, doesn't say like, oh, I'm just like sat at the edge and watched her sister die. You know, it like to the son, it's like, oh, mom's really scared, like, you know. And so the mom is like, oh, go call your dad and like tell him to call the police, call an ambulance, that kind of thing, to like the son, because he like knows how to call his dad at least. Meanwhile, she like isn't actually trying to save her daughter. She's just like swimming around randomly. And so yeah, now both daughters have died and she says it's an accident. But then the dad kind of like gets suspicious because the little boy told the dad, well, mom told me to hold my breath before we fell in. So he asks Verity, the dad asks Verity about that, and she says, no, I told him to hold his breath as we were falling into the water. So then the dad, like, you know, is like suspect of ill intention because he has noticed that, obviously he's noticed that the mom doesn't interact with twin B as nicely as if she does with twin A when she was alive. So he's like suspicious that she's killed twin B, which she did. And then at the end of the autobiography, the last sentence is basically she's trying to have sympathy from the husband so he won't like pursue it farther or that kind of thing. And so the last sentence in her autobiography is, well, maybe I should just drive myself into a tree, which is how she got in the car accident. So then at the end of the autobiography, it's like, oh my God, she is like crazy and like dangerous. So meanwhile, while Lowen is reading through this autobiography over like a 2-week span, she keeps noticing things in the house that aren't quite making sense. Like the son, he will say, well, my mom said not to tell you anything about her. Or sometimes she'll notice like the son will like wave up to the house and to his mom's window, and then Lowen will look and there's nobody there. But she's like, well, was the mom just like standing at the window? Because she's not supposed to be able to like move or talk or do anything. And then the one night, of course, the dad and Lowen, of course, because they've been living together for a couple weeks and stuff, are like hanging out on the couch downstairs in the living room. And then Lowen looks up and sees Verity standing at the top of the stairs and is like, oh my God, your wife is like standing right there. And of course she like runs back to the room and pretends to not have moved. And the dad doesn't believe Lowen and is like, oh, I think you're just seeing things because you're really stressed out and you're like reading these books that my wife wrote that are like it's a like a kind of like evil story, I guess, that she's supposed to be writing. So he's like, no, you're just like stressed out with working and like it's like not a big deal, like she can't move. I've seen the brain scan, like she can't. And Lowen's like, oh my God, am I going crazy or what's happening? Eventually she ends up being like, there is no way that this lady, like she's faking it. She's faking being injured. So she like gives the manuscript to the dad and she doesn't know if he's actually ever read it or not. So he goes, he reads the manuscript, and then he like goes into Verity's room where she's like laying on the bed, like, you know, asleep and not functioning. And he's like, if you don't wake up right now, I'm giving this manuscript to the police, blah, blah, blah. So she like wakes up and she's like, okay, but like, hold on, you have to forgive me. And he like freaks out and like starts strangling her. And then Lowen goes upstairs and she's like, no, if you strangle her, like it's gonna look obvious because they can autopsy that. So instead she's like, just like make her throw up and then it'll look like she choked on her own vomit and died. So they do that and they kill Verity because they're like, this woman is insane and she killed our daughter for revenge, for nothing, for doing nothing. Like this twin B didn't actually kill twin A with peanuts. You know, it was actually an accident, but they think that Verity like goes and kills that daughter out of revenge. Anyway, so then Verity is dead. And Lowen and the dad end up like moving in together, whatever, moving away from that house with the son. Everything works out great for them. And then they're going to sell the original house that Verity and her husband lived in because they don't want to like live in that toxic environment anymore. So they are selling the house, and then little boy, it's just Lowen and little boy there. Like we're talking like months from when Verity's killed or like found dead in her room. Anyways, so they end up selling the house and moving somewhere else. And the last day that they're there, they're just grabbing like a couple last minute things. And the little boy says, oh, I have to like go grab something. So he runs upstairs and brings back some drawings. And Lowen is like, oh, where'd you get those? Like, what's, like, I thought we cleared everything out of your mom's room. He's like, well, no, like, they were just under the floor in my mom's room. And Lowen is like, oh. So she goes up there, finds like some loose floorboards and pulls out a letter that's hidden under the floor in there. And it's in this letter, it is written by Verity. And let me just make sure I'm telling this part right. So Verity writes this letter after she's got in the car accident and is faking her injuries. It talks about how it's so hard to explain it properly, but basically Verity is like, this is to my husband. I didn't kill our kids, and I didn't secretly like hate our children. Are you crazy? The reason I wrote that manuscript autobiography is because my agent told me to practice writing as a villain better. Write about your own life from the perspective of if you're the villain, because Verity's whole book series is written from the perspective of a villain. So she needed to practice writing as if she was a villain in her own life. Was one of her like writing practice things that her agent wanted her to do. So that's why she wrote the manuscript. Well, anyways, in the letter, it then like explains like, you know, after twin A died, like we were both so devastated. And then a couple days after twin B died, you had found this manuscript, and I knew that like you thought that I'd killed our daughter, and like you were gonna go to the police and whatever, and you took me in the car and crashed into that tree to try to kill me. So it's kind of hard to, I don't want to screw this up if I'm saying this, but basically Verity's writing out what happened in a different perspective. She's saying, I wrote the manuscript as practice writing examples of how to write as a villain, so I just used my own life to practice writing from a villain perspective. You found the manuscript on my computer and freaked out and thought that it was real and that I'd killed our daughter a week ago or whatever it was. And then you took me in the car, you like strangled me until I passed out, and then you took me in the car, and I woke up in the car, and you crashed us into a tree with me in the passenger seat, and then moved me to the driver's seat to make it look like I'd crashed my own car, when really you had just tried to like murder me by crashing me in the car. And when I woke up in the hospital, I knew that I couldn't tell you the truth about the manuscript because you wouldn't believe me, and you were going to go to the police, and I would lose access to my son, and I can't do that. So I'm going to take our son and run away. And I know that that Lowen is, you know, getting suspicious of me faking my illness or my injury, and I have to do this soon, otherwise my cover's going to be blown. So I'm going to take our son and run away. And that's kind of just explain, like that's what the letter says, is like, this is all a big misunderstanding, and you had tried to kill me because you thought it was the truth. And so Lowen reads this letter and is like, oh shoot, did I, like, which is the truth, right? And it doesn't ever, like, that's kind of the end of the book, is she just like gets rid of this letter and like doesn't ever mention anything ever again. So at the end of the book, it leaves the reader being like, okay, was the manuscript the truth, or was this letter the truth? And what I think, that's my opinion, I think, and also because, well, I think that the manuscript was the truth, mostly because if you were actually a parent, how could you write such bad stuff that you were doing to your own kids, like trying to like choke them to death as a baby and stuff? Like if you were really, like if you were a parent, you would not be able to write about that about your own kid, even as like a work of fiction. Just, you wouldn't be able to do it, I don't think. Well, if she did do those things, she's either writing the letter to try to make herself sound innocent, but what would be the point of that? Or she's writing the letter to explain to the husband why she took his kid away and ran away from him. But it wouldn't matter anyways, because he'll be like the reader. He'll either believe the manuscript or he'll believe the letter. So, and even if he reads the letter and believes the letter, she's already ran away with his kid. So it doesn't matter if he's like, oh yeah, dang, I guess she's right, that was just a writing exercise. I believe her. Because it's already too far gone, you know? He's not gonna be like, oh, let me track her down now, like she'd be gone. Anyway, so I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the letter is the truth or the manuscript is the truth? I think it's the manuscript is the truth. Mostly because you can't write that awful of stuff about your own kids probably, and also because I think I would like Lowen and the dad to not be crazy and have killed an innocent person. Or I also would have liked the dad to not have tried to kill Verity in the first place by that car accident. And I think even if the letter is the truth, Verity is still a crazy person for writing that whole manuscript. You're still crazy for writing about your own life as if you're a villain. That's like intense. Maybe like I think she should have, even if the letter is the truth, I think where she didn't actually kill the kids and stuff, maybe mention to your husband, honey, I'm gonna go write from our life from the perspective of a villain. Just a heads up, if you are on my computer someday and you find this whole manuscript that's talking about me hating my kids and wanting them dead, it's not legit. It's just a writing practice. Like, you would think she would have said that at some point if the manuscript was fake. So that's what I think. But if you agree or disagree, let me know, because I'm just curious on what other people think about it. It was a very intriguing book, and I like books that kind of leave you with that open-endedness of like, oh shoot. I would give it a 10. I would give it a 10 out of 10. Okay, maybe like a 9.5 or a 9, only because like some parts of it are like a little bit like written almost for a teenager. Anyways, I think, yeah. Oh, and this is another one of those books that I was saying in one of my other videos where it's like one of the catalysts the author uses to like accelerate or make the story more dramatic is the main character getting pregnant surprisingly and being like, oh my god, I'm pregnant now with your baby. And I don't know, like I said in my other video, think of something else to do that's more interesting. Anyways, hopefully you like this video, and I know they're getting kind of long lately, but I have lots of thoughts on books, obviously. So thank you for watching to the end. If you made it this far, please comment what you thought about the book and if you liked it or not. I'm always just curious to see your opinion on stuff, and yeah, I will see you in my next video. This next one that's coming up is kind of more of this style of book, I guess. More of this like author style at least. So maybe if you liked this Verity book, you'll like my next review of my next book. We'll see. I guess you'll find out. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye.